Nat here with a live stream of the Mom's Adventure Paradox podcast. I have with me a very special guest. I'm so excited to talk to you, Natalie, because capsule dressing and travel is a thing right now. It's spring break. We're thinking about what we got to put in our box and maybe what we should leave at home. And I am so excited to hear about this gift you're offering, this YouTube channel that's gone viral, and just check in with you today. How are you and where in the world are you, Natalie?
Well, thank you for having me. I am in Bristol, Tennessee today, but I'm kind of all over the place quite a bit. But I am in the U.S. right now, so that's great. And I I am happy to be here.
Awesome. And before we get into capsule dressing and sort of how this all came to be, what is your day job? Why do you travel around so much and how did this come to be?
So I'm a decorative and restoration artist by trade, and that's has really been my heart. I'm an artist. So I have a client that's always called me a fancy painter, which is quite funny. But it is. I mean, it's applying architectural coatings to surfaces. So it could be gold leaf, it could be plasters of some sort, it could be paint, just about anything. But then with the restoration work that I do, I'm also restoring pieces properly. And I trained under a conservator, so I have kind of a background in that area. So I'm a very detail oriented person. And but interestingly, because of that, that has kind of been what has morphed my life's work also into a little side hobby of a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And
Yeah, the
yeah,
YouTube channel sort of took off almost accidentally because of this side work you were doing as a result.
yes and no. And I did. I've been creating capsule wardrobes for travel for about 3 or 4 years, kind of when I first heard about it, because I thought, oh well, that makes a lot more sense than what I've been doing. And but the impetus was that I took a trip to Turkey with some friends from college, and I had to pack in an 8 kilogram bag, and that was it. And that for US people, that's 17.65 pounds, which is not a lot when a standard piece of luggage usually weighs about 5 pounds, if not more. So anyway, that's really what did it for me. But I've been creating capsule wardrobes to be able to just to travel with the work that I'm doing. And now it just kind of morphed into having to travel for work all the time, to then my international travel experiences, because I also travel for training and for inspiration. So that's how it all came to be. And now it's really taking off.
It's totally taking off. And let's go back to the origin story because why did you have to pack only 18 pounds? Why?
Well, we were going to Turkey and we were going to be moving from place to place to place. And also, Turkish Airlines has a requirement. I could have checked a bag, but we were also concerned about actually being able to get your bags at the airport because he had a really tight kind of travel schedule. So I just figured I'm going to challenge myself to do this. I would be traveling by myself on the way back. I'd be flying from Ankara back to Istanbul and then Istanbul back to Atlanta. So I really, in a strange country where I didn't speak the language, I did not want to be held down by a bunch of luggage and baggage that I'd have to ask for help with.
I
So
love it. Yeah.
yeah.
And was the experience of that first time traveling with only 18 pounds liberating? What was it like for you to then only have a few things?
It was a little bit stressful, I'll say, because I'm a maximum minimalist, a little bit maximalist, where it's kind of I have the I paradox, right, of between the two. And so I do, and I've also been dealing with autoimmune issues for quite a while. So I take a little travel kettle with me and some tea or bone broth or something like that, so that I can kind of take care of myself if I can't find certain things to eat. Although in Europe, it's a lot easier for me because they don't have a lot of additives in their food. So I knew I would have an easier time, but I still took my travel kettle with me. So it was a bit stressful thinking I would have to survive with so little,
Mm,
but going from a essentially traveling with a 40-pound suitcase or a 35-pound suitcase and then having to cut that down, in half or
mm,
less,
mhm.
it was definitely a challenge, but in a good way, because then I started really thinking, okay, well, if I run out of moisturizer, I'll just buy some while I'm there. And then since we would be staying with my friend's husband's family, then I would just give it to them. Like in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm thinking I'm not being wasteful. I'll just leave it with them. I'll give it
Yeah.
away. So it's not like I'm being buying a whole bunch of stuff while I'm there and then I have to take it home. No, you can just leave it. And it's
Totally.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
What a different way of thinking. And I'm also thinking about weight in general. And my background is owning a fitness club and coaching a lot of women in weight loss. But the connection between your weight loss journey this year and also looking at carrying less weight, like literally our luggage carrying less weight. And whether you check a bag or not, you've got that depending on the airline. Even checked
Yeah.
bags have very different weights. There's a huge difference between a 35-pound bag or a 50-pound bag. So I'd love to hear if there have been any connections or correlations for you in your weight loss journey and learning to carry literally less weight when you travel.
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I ever thought about that, but I can tell you when I did lose a significant amount of weight, when I happened to be in Sam's, I went immediately to where they had the potatoes. and and I want to say it was a 25-pound bag of this like massive thing of potatoes. And I decided that I was going to see if I could pick it up and actually put it over my shoulder and just kind of stand there for a minute, like let this sink in. Let this
Yeah.
sink in, sister. Like that.
Yeah.
And so it is similar in that I think we pack our fears, and I do talk about that a lot on my channel, is that, less can be more. I mean, there's a limit too. I mean, I'm not literally just going to put a toothbrush in my pocket and hop on a train and go somewhere. That's a little bit too out there for me. Like, I mean, if I had to, yes, I could make anything work, of course. But I do think that we do pack our fears a lot, and we pack a lot of what ifs when it's not necessary. And I'm learning to kind of trust more, and learning that no matter where I go, I can figure this out. And to quote what Marie Forleo's mother, everything is figure outable. It really
Yeah.
is. It's pretty easy to learn. But I do think going to a country where I do not speak the language, I know three or four phrases in Turkish and some, because I've been friends with these folks for like 30 years, 30 plus years. So I've been surrounded by a little bit of that in my past history with them, but they know how I speak, and I understand words when I'm with them. But traveling by myself for a couple of days and not knowing if I would be able to understand other people made me a little bit nervous. So and there was also, I guess, at some point, I think when I was leaving, somebody set a bomb off or did something stupid in Ankara, um, you know, um, doing something really bad. So there was a little bit of stress, in that kind of line of thinking. But I do really believe that if you have a positive outlook when you're traveling and you have an open mind, you can get you through just about any situation if you pack well. And then that's the other part of this, is that's what I've really been focused on, is packing super, super tight, wonderful workhorse capsule wardrobes that will literally take you to any situation. Like if you have a meeting pop up, if you have to go to a
Mm,
nice dinner, but also what if you want to go hiking for the day? It's just kind of random. So I,
mhm.
I kind of I've taken that to be able to say, let's be prepared for just about anything, and then you can figure it out if you have to.
Okay, so let's begin because I have a beach trip coming up. How would you begin with capsule wardrobe or capsule packing for a beach trip, say to Turks and Caicos?
Well, the very first thing is you have to look at the weather. And literally the night before, the day before, you're even looking at weather again. And a lot of times I even print that stuff out. And so that I have my highs and lows, my high and low temperature for the day, and then also weather conditions.
Mm,
And so, if it's 70 degrees, but you've got 20-mile-per-hour winds, that kind of sometimes feels like, especially coming off the water, could feel like 20 degrees colder.
yeah.
So it's things like that that if you that's the very first step. So you would really concentrate on weather. And then the next thing, of course, is your activities. What will you be doing? You're going to sit on the beach all the time, or will you be going to dinner? Or are you staying in a resort where you're not necessarily having to change clothes? You could have a cute beach cover up and still go have lunch on the terrace somewhere. So there's those are the factors. You just kind of have to gather that information ahead of time, and then that's where you start building from that point.
In your building of a capsule, are you thinking about rinse and repeat items, or are you thinking about, say, with a 7-day trip, like how long and how many times can I wear these things again and again, and on that note, if it's 7 days and you're not going to be able to do laundry, are you packing 7 pairs of undies, or how do you think about that?
Good questions. So I usually pack about half the underclothes that I will need for a trip. And then I plan to always do laundry about midway through my trip. Depend now, if it's a really, if I'm gone for a month, that kind of changes things significantly. But what I'm usually doing is I'm packing a wardrobe that could go from 5 weeks to 5 days. Like literally that tight of a capsule wardrobe to get you through 5 days. You can absolutely go into 5 weeks with that. And I've often said 4 days or 4 weeks.
Hmm.
So pack for that. And because usually, unless you're on a trip, and I've had these before too, where I'm in meetings, and if there's like a conference, for example, and you're just constantly going, getting very little sleep,
Hmm.
there is less time to do laundry. So in that case, I don't mind laundering underclothes, but I may pack a little heavier in my clothing items because I may not have as much time to do sink laundry, so to speak, do washing certain things out in the sink. But most of the time I'm planning for that. I'm literally, because I have it down to a science now. I have a scrubba wash bag that I carry with me that I talk about in videos quite a bit. And I also use that as my dirty clothes bag because it's like any outdoorsy people, it's like a wet bag. So it kind of rolls down at the top and then clips. But
Hmm.
the nice thing about this is it has a valve and it lets all the air out. So you can almost use it as a packing cube. And then if you're traveling from multiple places, you're not sharing your stinky clothes with your clean clothes. Anybody who's traveled extensively for multiple weeks, after a time, your luggage kind of starts smelling not stinky, but it has just a musty odor to it if you're
Hmm.
carrying a bunch of dirty clothes with you. So a scrubba wash bag really helps, and it's just super quick. I mean, I can do laundry anywhere as long as I have a towel and a place to hang things and a sink or a water source. I'm good.
Do you use whatever soap is there? Do you have a soap you travel with for washing in the sink?
Yes, I do bring my own laundry soap with me, and but it's part of my liquids, and they do make powders and things like that. I find that they don't dissolve as easily doing this other type of laundry, and I also use all natural products, so I don't use a lot of the like Tide or anything like that. I'm using all natural materials. So what I find is using my liquid soap just like I use at home. It's better, I think, for my skin, and I'm not introducing something that I may have an allergy,
Hmm.
allergic reaction to or something. So
So you bring a smaller than 3.2 ounces, since we're carrying on, vial of your liquid, non-toxic, seventh generation, something like that, detergent from home.
yes, and another trick I can tell you is it's actually 3.4 ounces. So you have just a little
Thank
bit
you.
more. So 3.4 ounces. And I'll tell you something that I've done for a long time is I actually leave the soap, leave my container, my lid off of that and let it evaporate. So I actually as soon as I get home and refill my container, I leave it sitting out so that it will somewhat evaporate. And then I just top it off because it will slightly reduce. And so then you have more of a concentrated laundry detergent. So that's also really great.
Oh my gosh, Natalie, I see these hacks going viral. I'm like tearing up, like, what? Oh my gosh. So, okay, down to the nitty-gritty though, because I'll be honest, I have washed my undies, say in the sink.
Yep.
Often with cotton, it's hard to get them soft again, drying, air drying.
Mm.
Do you blow dry? What do you do?
So I do let everything soak in the sink for quite a while. So I my or if I have the scrub a bag, I let everything kind of once I've agitated everything, I let it soak for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then when I roll everything up in my towel to remove the moisture and then let it drip dry, I actually tend to, I guess it's not, maybe it's the laundry detergent I'm using because it has essential oils in it. Everything seems fine to me and I've never had an issue, but I do think it's necessary to soak things just to make sure that you're removing any bacteria or whatever, that you're getting
Yeah.
things clean. And then and what I do is I actually wash my things the same way they would be washed in a washing machine. So I make sure that everything's agitated, that I, hand wash things, that I get, stains out or whatever. And then I'll let them soak for a bit. Then I wash everything or rinse everything really well. And then rinse again. So I'm making sure I'm getting, everything completely clean to where the water is completely clear.
Okay.
And so for me, I've never had an issue with that. Of course, it's a little bit masterful. I do have a YouTube video on how to do
I was
the
gonna
laundry in
say,
the sink. I'm
I'm
sure we can
guessing you
link
have a
that
video.
in show notes. We can link that
We'll
in show notes.
totally link that. We'll totally
Yeah.
link that.
And
Uh,
in fact, when I made that, I was just in Florence, Italy, and I love staying in unique places. And I was staying in a convent in this particular trip, and they had a drying rack in the shower, and it was so perfect. I mean, it was
oh,
just the best, and I very nice updated bathroom, very and so it was easy, so easy for me to do what I had to do, and then hang everything to dry. And when you leave your windows open in the room and you come home in the evening, pretty much everything is dry, and it's it works really, really well. It really.
I, yeah, I love it. And I'm so grateful. And part of it, I was also just in Italy and I had an adventure of going to a laundromat and learning that everybody in Italy goes to the laundromat Sunday afternoon. It was a very long line. Expected a certain amount of waiting, but it was like two or three times longer than what I thought it would be, right? So I love this reminder that you could do laundry in your sink. And I think as Americans, making a generalization here, but so
Mm,
many of us don't even know how to do laundry, like where's the machine, right? And
right.
most of the world is used to not having a machine, especially when it comes to drying, like air drying. So of course they might have a rack or some way of drying. I thought of another
Sure.
question as you were talking earlier. When you were talking about 5 weeks or 5 days, I was thinking about I live in a place, obviously, I'm here in my Carhartt in the trailer because it's cold here. There's a lot of snow that has seasons, really solid seasons. And if you're traveling for 5 weeks or more, let's just say more than 3, 4 weeks, you're probably going to be in a little bit of a seasonal transition. How do you think about, do you pick like a midpoint on, layer up if you might be, because even where I was in the Dolomites, it was already a lot springier the week that I was there. The second week though, and I could only see 1 week out, right? It was actually sunny the second week, but a blizzard the first week. So like how do you think about your midpoint on a longer trip where you can't see all the way out in terms of the weather?
So another great question, and I'll tell you, I'm dressed accordingly today because it was 29 when I first left my house this morning where I am. So and dressing in layers, and when I was in Paris recently, it snowed, and I had a similar experience there where I was going from 50-degree weather to then below freezing, 20s and snowing. And I only had, I think, a 6 or 8 piece capsule wardrobe with me, but I had a rain trench, which
Mm,
does keep, it's if you have proper layering, you can then, and if you have a raincoat to put over it, it's almost like having a winter coat. And now you do have to wear obviously more of the clothes, but I'll tell you, I have a merino wool. It's actually kind of a boat neck
Hmm.
top, and then I have a merino wool jacket, and a zipper. It has like, it's kind of like a cardigan, kind of cardigan jacket, has pockets. And the nice thing about this is this top would be totally, I'd be totally comfortable in this, not in, certainly not like in probably 80 degrees, no, but 70s, this would be totally great. Then you add this on, and I'm more comfortable in, 50-degree weather. And you add another coat on, or another layer on, and then I would be fine for probably 20s, as long as I had some like wind protection. I think that would be the kind of the kicker. Another thing that you can do is bring undershirts with you. So that's another trick that I do. I may only bring 6 clothing items with me, but I have a short sleeve merino wool undershirt, a long sleeve merino wool undershirt. I have camisoles. And so those are the things that I'm actually washing, is my under things, because with merino wool or a lot of natural fabrics, you can hang them out to just air dry overnight, and then you can rewear them without having to launder them. So that's another real trick, is that silk, wool, cashmere, linen. Now,
Hmm.
linen I typically wash out, because I don't want it to hold odors, because it isn't as antimicrobial as the other things that I mentioned. But that this is a really easy way to be able to travel and not have to, you're not constantly having to do laundry except for your under things.
Totally. Oh, I love that so much. And I was thinking, congratulations on your weight loss, by the way. Like that's a huge, huge thing. So hats off. I got my hat here. Hats off to you on that. Seriously.
Love it. Thank you.
Um, Another big win I want to give you a hats off on is this YouTube channel and how it took off and the 16,000 views and so on. Like, what happened? What was the creative process like as you suddenly realized, huh, I'm putting this out there and people are really excited about this?
Honestly, some of this is, I don't want to say dumb luck. That's offensive, but but like to myself, but it is kind of just like naivete, I guess, of just thinking, maybe I could do this. Because when I went to Turkey, besides packing with a small capsule wardrobe and a small bag, actually the biggest problem, and the reason I even made my very first video, was that I couldn't find a video of somebody who dressed modestly as I do, and also um, was respectful of like the fact that I was visiting a Muslim nation, and knowing that I would have to be, heads covered, when I went inside mosques and religious sites. And I really wasn't sure what to expect, but I couldn't find a video that had this information. Most of it are these, I mean, 18-year-old girls that are like, oh, aesthetic. And and I mean, you do you. That's great. But like, even when I was 18, my mother would not have allowed me to go out of the house looking like some of these, booty shorts and tube top business. I mean, that's just not appropriate. So when I came back from Turkey, I'm on the airplane flying back from Istanbul to Atlanta. I'm literally making an outline. If I could do a YouTube video, how would I do it? I'd
Mm,
never, and I've done videos for my business quite a bit, because I will detail processes of like our restoration work or our decorative projects. So I'm familiar with doing and putting together video work and editing and uploading things to YouTube, but I'd never monetized anything. And frankly, not a whole lot of people, I don't think, had ever paid a whole lot of attention to my YouTube channel at that point. So coming back and then just figuring out, you know what, I can do this too. I've seen other people that have done this, and some of their videos are not so great. Why can't I do it too? There's no reason why I can't do this. So I literally set up my camera. I didn't even have a tripod. I had nothing with me, and just decided that I was going to film it when I walked in the hotel room. And I sure did. Now, I had to finish it the next morning because I was brain dead. I'd, been traveling like, I don't know, 20 something hours. So, um, I finished it when I had better natural light the next morning, and started editing and then posted it. And believe it or not, like I kept getting these notifications. I took my mom out shopping. She's doesn't drive anymore. And so we're in the middle of Sam's, and I keep getting all these notifications to my phone that people have liked your video. And I'm thinking, really? Wow. Well, that's great. Super. And it just took off from there. So I was literally able to, I guess, make this into a side hustle, if you will, because I wanted something and I
Mhm.
couldn't find it. And so I knew at that point that someone else out there had to have a need like I did,
Yeah.
and I wanted to provide it. And so that's really what I've been doing all along is I'm presenting my material because I'm talking to somebody like you that doesn't know how to do their laundry in the sink, right? Or doesn't understand the process or whatever. That's what I'm thinking is I'm I'm talking to a neighbor, I'm talking to a friend. I'm just helping kind of nudge somebody or coach somebody.
I love that story so much, Natalie. And I really hope that Sam's is going to become one of your sponsors because you've mentioned it twice. And there you were at Sam's when you realized, whoa, this is like a lot of people really are looking for this right now, right? This is a real need and desire in the world and an interest. And you're providing
Mhm.
such valuable content. And literally, again, hats off to you for that one. Also had a question for you about hats. How do you manage packing hats or like bigger items? Do you got to wear those when you're traveling? Any thoughts about sort of bigger, bulkier, awkward items that you're gonna need for whatever reason?
So I have two things for you, two hacks. But one is not so much a hack, it's just about packing. So if you are going to pack a hat, depending on how tall it is, because your hat seems to be kind of bigger, but
Hmm.
if it's more like a summer hat, you can get away with what I call a butterfly, the suitcase that opens like this, that's equal on both sides. So the side that doesn't have the handles on it, you could um, pack around it and then, kind of flip it over and tuck smaller things inside of it. So that way it stays safe. So you're almost, when you open that side of the suitcase, you're looking in at the hat band, if
Mm,
that makes sense, where you're
that makes sense.
then all of your socks or underwear or smaller items that can be kind of balled up, or scarves, bathing suits, anything like that stays inside of that summer hat to keep it the shape. And then the flat part, of course, is laying flat with other things underneath it that are kind of
Mm,
melded around that outside. It probably isn't as good of an idea to do that if you have packing cubes, unless you're using maybe the right at the 22-inch allowed suitcase on most airlines as far as a carry-on goes. But then if you have a bigger hat like what you have, I'd recommend using the kind of suitcase that literally the lid zips off and opens. So you have all of your suitcase right here. So you've got about 9 inches, 8.5 inches to work with. Even though you still have the handle, the trolley handle in there, you can still put things into the trolley handle area, those kind of divots that are in the bottom of the suitcase, to make that all nice and flat. And then you can start kind of packing around it, and you would do it the same way. So putting your hat, so that you can see the hat band down into this kind of little cavern that you've created for it, and then packing around it and down inside of it so it doesn't lose its shape. And then
it's
one other hack for you, one other
Mhm.
really great hack. There are people who have created, and you can buy them on Amazon, it's a little hook, and it has two magnets that will actually hold your hat. But what I have found is that going through an airport, going through somewhere busy,
Ah,
I have lost stuff because the magnets don't hold it in place. But I'll tell you what does. You can find pacifier holders. And I am a cat mom. I'm not a human mom because I've never been married, but they have these wonderful little things that are for a pacifier that it just has a metal kind of clip that has little it's like paddles,
hmm.
and it clips, but then there's this other piece that comes on top of it that kind of ratchets it down and holds it very tightly. So I have found that by hanging one of those off of, say, a tote bag or a backpack, and then attaching a hat to that, never so that it's flopping around or whatever, you have to really engineer things so that it's not going to bother anybody when you're going through an airport or getting off the plane. But wherever you attach it, your hat should just hang down kind of naturally. I've even hooked that to a suitcase handle. And I've taken a straw hat with me when I've been in Europe just for sun protection. So yeah. But it
I,
works. There's your 3 hacks.
and I love the mom hack that you threw in there for our moms listening and caretakers. And tell us about your kitty. Who's your cat?
Oh, I have many because
Oh,
I've been actually I've been fostering. I help with animal rescues, dogs and cats, and I had dogs until my work schedule got so busy. So now
mhm.
I have cats, and in fact, when my last big dog passed away, he brought one of the cats that I have now into the house. I thought he killed a rabbit. He was a retriever shepherd mix, and I really thought he'd killed a rabbit, but in fact, it's now my studio cat, Faux Kitty. And so she and Lucky were attached. I mean, actually, I really think she bonded to him and thought he was her mother because she was abandoned. Like she was, I don't know, 4 weeks old. I still had to feed her formula, but she
Mm.
was very feral, didn't really like me a whole lot. I mean, I was the food giver, so she was okay with that. But she's my studio kitty now, and she wags her tail like a dog. And but she doesn't jump up on anything, which is great for restoration projects because she doesn't realize she's a cat. I think she still thinks that she's a dog. And I bought
Yeah.
her a kitty condo, so she has a great place where she can be and be comfortable and feel safe. And so I'd say she's my favorite. And then I have a couple of other cats at home that I rescued during COVID, and there was the animal rescue in my area. I live in kind of a rural area. We didn't have the ability to do any of that, like, fostering. Everybody, they just wanted to put the animals down, and I
Oh,
I wasn't going to have that. So the 2 cats that I actually rescued during that time are now still with me, and they had babies. And at one point I had, I had 15 cats, but I found homes for them. Oh, but it was precious. And talking about being a mom, so I haven't had this experience. They both had babies, and I helped deliver them on my own because and I'd never seen anything being born before. And it was, I just, and I mean, just like the movies, I've like hot water and sterilized
yep.
the scissors for the little umbilical cords. Like, I mean, I was flipping out, and it took about 6 hours. But yeah, it was for the last birth was about a 6 hour period, but worth every minute. So it was really
Miraculous.
special. Yeah,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
special, really special.
Yeah, birth is filled with paradoxes, isn't it? What an adventure.
Well, and the two cats that I brought in were mother and daughter. And I'll tell you one other really special thing. The daughter was only 5 months old. So as far as I could tell, in terms of her like teeth development and all that stuff, she was just very, very young when she had babies. So basically her father impregnated her, which is really
Oh,
like, uh,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
but anyway, so her mother had babies first, and then she had babies, and I didn't even realize she was pregnant.
On the
I
same day? They're birthing on the same day? No.
within a week of each other. And I had
Probably no, they cycled together.
yeah, I had absolutely no stinking clue and don't know anything about I don't know what is it? I don't know nothing about birth and no babies. I had no idea, like no clue.
Wow.
And the best part was that because I had them together and brought them in together, that the mother was actually nursing some of her child's babies because she was so flipped out because she was 5 months old, 6 months old, maybe by that time. And she just didn't understand. She was just, drenched, wet, bloody, a mess, after birth. It was, and she just would not nurse. She hid in the corner of the little kennel and wouldn't. So I picked all those babies up um, and carried them over to her mother's kennel. And the 2 babies that she had, their eyes had just opened, and they were just like, "Oh, cool, we've got cousins." So they all took, and so the next thing you know, her mother is nursing all of her brand new kids and cleaning them. And I was just so overcome by gratitude. And because if I hadn't brought them in at the same time, how would I have managed that? I bet they would have all died. How could I? So it was it was a COVID. I know a lot of people experienced a lot of pain and a lot of terrible things during COVID, but it was a very special event for me to have that and just realize that something good can come out of something so terrible, and it's such a difficult time for everyone.
I think we need another hats off for that story because that just blew my mind. And I hope you've made a YouTube video about it because there's probably somebody out there like the mom's having,
Oh,
the baby's mom is having, what do I do? Like what a powerful, powerful testimony. So thank you for sharing that story. I can't believe our time is up. How do people find you if they want to follow up, if they want to work with you? And also, I would love to come back and actually capsule pack with you and
oh
be one
yeah,
of those
absolutely.
capsule
Let's
clients.
plan
It'd
it.
be super fun. So let's do that. And if you guys want to join us, we'll put an invite in the show notes. But Natalie, how do you want people to find you?
So I have recently signed up with Stan Store. And if you would like to do a consult for packing, or if you'd like me to pack for you and basically tell you what to take with you, and we just have 2 meetings, you've got to fill out a lot of paperwork and do some brainstorming with me and kind of emailing back and forth. But we have some options. And so it's Stan Store and slash brushed artist. So that's my handle also on social media. So I'm brushed artist, and my YouTube channel is brushed artist and the art of travel, because ultimately I hope I can still do both.
Oh my gosh, you are amazing and such a gift. It's been an absolute delight to be with you today. And if you guys liked this, please drop a comment. If you're watching on social media, reach out to Natalie and check out this work, like capsule dressing for the win. And what a heart you have. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been really, really fun.
Thank you. This was really fun.
Of course. Have a great day, everybody, and travel safely, but don't forget the adventure. Pack it with you. Ciao.